Shalom, shalom, mishpaka. Shalom to the whole house, to the whole bayif of Yasharal. Shalom to you, Yahudah. To the four corners, shalom to you. Shalom to you, Ephraim. To the four corners of the earth, shalom to you. Shalom to you, stranger, who has joined himself to us, who has attached himself and engrafted into the bayif of Yasharal, whereby becoming a co-heir, and adopted son, a native born who is no longer considered, a stranger who is no longer considered a stranger, but who is considered a native born and is treated as a native born Yasharalite, whereby now you are also privy to the same covenants, to the same promise, and to the same inheritance that was given to Yasharal and to Yasharal alone. Esteem to Yahuwah that your eyes have been opened, that your ears have been opened, that the stiffness has been removed from your neck, that the hardness has been removed from your heart, and Yahushua, our Mashiach, has revealed to you what the true Besorah is, what the true good news is. And that is that Yasharal is the firstborn son of Yahuwah, and the firstborn Barakah was given to Yasharal and to Yasharal alone. But through the shed blood of Hamashiach, who is the stone laid in Zion, whom the whole bayif of Yasharal is built, and the stranger who would attach himself to us, who is the chief cornerstone, who completes the entire house, the entire bayif of Yasharal, both Yahudah and Ephraim, and the stranger who would attach himself to us. Through him, through the stone, through the chief cornerstone, you too, stranger, can now be engrafted into the house of Yasharal, whereby now you too are privy to the same covenants, to the same promise, and the same inheritance that was given to Yasharal and to Yasharal alone. This is the true Besorah. And he has chosen his chosen people, Yasharal, to be a royal kihunah, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation. He has dispersed us purposely to the four corners of the earth, of the Eretz, to be lights amongst the nations, to be a royal kihunah, to be kohanim amongst the nations, to teach them the true Besorah, to be lights amongst them, to be set-apart examples in set-apartness, and to show them what it looks like, what it tangibly looks like, and what it means to be set apart to the Most High Yah. Esteem to Yahuwah, stranger, that you have received the good news. Shalom, shalom to you on this Yom, to whomever is listening to this video besides the house of Yasharal. Shalom to you. I had said that I wasn't going to make another video this morning, but like my father Yirmiyahu, once Yahuwah has placed a word in you, he is the word. He is Ruach. He is the word. He is Ish. He is a consuming fire. And so once he has placed his word in you, once he has deposited himself into us, it's like a fire that is shut up in your bones, and it has to come out. It has to come out. And so I had no choice but to speak again this morning, to make another video this morning, because this is a Moed season. This is a very important season. If you have eyes to see and ears to hear, this is a very important season. Nabuah, what some call prophecy, is coming together as we speak. It's coming together right before our eyes, and time is of the essence. This is a very urgent season. It is urgent. It's urgent. And I must speak. I must speak. It is like fire shut up in my bones, and I must speak. Some will hear, some won't. This message may not be for the masses. It may only be for one, but that's okay. That's okay. My big brothers, the set apart Malachim in the Shamaim, they rejoice when just one receives the Besorah, when just one receives the truth of Yah. And so I must speak. If it's only for one, I must speak. And so with that, I have a question. I have a question this morning for you. And that question is, it's something that's uttered quite often amongst the Christian community. And it's uttered quite often and most often in defense of lawless behavior. And I would note that it's uttered out of ignorance. As the saying goes, ignorance is bliss. It's uttered out of ignorance and a lack of understanding, and most importantly, because of a lack of foundation and Torah. And this doctrine has led many of Yah's people astray. And I say Yah's people because there are many of you who are entrapped in Christianity who are Yah's people, or who are his chosen people, who have the blood of Mashiak, and who have the blood of Abraham and Yishak and of Jacob coursing through your veins. You have been dispersed to the four corners of the earth because of the disobedience of our fathers and because of our own disobedience. But because of the lies that you have inherited, you have forgotten, and you don't know who you are. You don't know who you are. And the whore, the great whore, the whore of Babel, has you under a great spell. She has you drunk with her sorcery and with her wine, and you have fallen prey to the lies of Christianity. But I pray that after you hear what Yahuwah has to say this morning, that even if you don't receive it this morning, that you will research this word to see if it is so. Be a Berean and see if it is so, and search out the scriptures and gain an understanding. So I want to talk to you about one of those misconceptions that has plagued Christianity. And that misconception is Mashiach, or whom you call Christ, is he the end of the law? Is he the end of the law? Now, I submit to you that law is actually a deceptive translation. It is an incorrect translation. The word law is neither Hebrew nor Greek. It is a Latin word, and it doesn't properly convey what the Hebrew word Turah and Torah mean. It doesn't accurately convey the meaning of those words. Now, the Hebrew word Torah means instruction, singular. It means instruction. And the Hebrew word Torah means instructions. It means instructions. So there's a difference. On one hand, Yahuwah may issue a Torah, an instruction. And on the other hand, he may issue instructions, Torah. There are differences. But if you adhere to the Latin deceptive term law, then you automatically include all of YAHUAH'S Torah under the banner of the word law. And that is wrong, and it is deceptive. It's wrong, and it is deceptive, purposely deceptive, I might add. So law is a deceptively wrong translation. It should not be there. It is neither Greek nor Hebrew. It is Latin. And if you're a student of the scriptures, you know that a lot of distortion happened during the Dark Ages when only the Roman Catholic Church could read. No one else could read. And so the scriptures were translated into their corrupt Latin Vulgate language so that only they could read, and the masses could only listen to what was given to them. And so this is when the word law came into being, and it is a deceptively wrong translation. I say all that. I want to look at Romans, the 10th chapter, verses 1 through 4, where that saying is uttered. Mashiach, of Christ, is the end of the law. What does that mean? What does that mean? Now, I want you to bookmark that, again, law is deceptive. It does not accurately convey what the Hebrew word Turah means, which is instruction, and the Hebrew word Torah, which means instructions. It doesn't actually accurately convey what those words mean. And so here in Romans, the 10th chapter, is Shaul saying that Mashiach is the end of Torah, of all of Yah's instructions? Or is he the end of a Turah, one of his instructions? One of his instructions. So let's read through the scriptures. I'm only gonna read verses 1 through 4, and for you Christians listening, I will read from your KJV. I don't really trust the KJV anymore, but I will, and that's for another time. But I will read for your sake. I will read from your KJV, so that at least you're familiar with the words. I won't use some of the pagan words. I'll use the correct terms, but at least you are familiar with the wording, and perhaps, Yah willing, you'll listen. So with that said, if you don't have your scriptures, go ahead and pause this video right now and go and run and grab your scriptures and come back, and let's read through Romans, the first chapter, the 10th chapter, verses 1 through 4, and let's gain some understanding with respect to what Shaul is saying here. Let's gain some understanding with respect to what Shaul is saying. Verse 1, it reads, "Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Elohim for Yasharal is that they might be delivered. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Elohim, but not according to knowledge. For they being ignorant of Elohim's righteousness, and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of Elohim. For Mashiach, whom you call Christ, is the end of the law," and we've discussed that that is wrong, "for righteousness to everyone that believeth." To everyone that believeth. Now, we have already discussed previously that the word law is wrong. It's wrong. It's neither Hebrew nor Greek. The Hebrew word Turah means instruction, and the Hebrew word Torah means instructions. So what are we talking about here? Are we talking about an instruction, or are we talking about Yah's instructions? Here, listen, we are talking about an instruction. We are talking about an instruction. Now, in the first verse, Shaul exclaims, "Brethren, my heart's desire in prayer to Elohim for Yasharal is that they might be delivered." That they might be delivered. So the question is, how can a person be delivered? How can a person be delivered? In other words, how can a person be declared right after a wrong? How can a person be declared righteous and or right after committing a wrong or an unrighteous act? Now, the answer to this question, it has not changed from the garden until now. And that is, without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. Without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. This is how a person is declared right in the eyes of Elohim. This is how a person is delivered from sin after committing a wrong. Now, the question is a person declared right by his own works, by his own human effort, by bringing a sheep, a bull, or a goat to the door of the hekel and slaughtering that bull himself, the offender, slaughtering that bull, sheep, or goat, and then taking the entrails out of that sheep, bull, or goat, and then cutting the animal up, and then washing the animal. All of this is done by the offender. And then presenting the cut up parts to the Kohanim, whom you call priests, or Kohen, whom you call priests, to be presented on the altar for atonement for their sins. Is a person determined right by this, by the works of the ceremonial law? Or is a person determined right or righteous by the shed blood and the offering of the body of HaMashiach? That's what's at play. This is what is at question. Now, Shaul here is addressing a nation of Yahudim who, some of them, who had not received the offering of the HaMashiach. They could not receive him. Most of them, especially the aristocracy, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who were very influential, who were affluent people, who were rich, could not receive the HaMashiach because he didn't come in the manner in which they expected. They expected pomp and pageantry. And a lot of you are the same way. If a messenger comes to you, if he's not dressed in a tailored suit and French cuffs and leather shoes and colored socks, and if you don't have a sock game and a matching handkerchief and a flower on his label, and with credentials behind his name, Dr. Theology or Master Theology, then you won't receive him because he is not coming in the manner in which you expected. And so they rejected the HaMashiach because he came lowly. He came lowly. He came as one whom was poor. He came to the poor. He came to the humble. He came to the lowly. He did not come to the haughty. And so they could not receive the HaMashiach because he didn't come as they expected. And so they rejected him and they rejected his offering. And so they continued to adhere to the ceremonial law of animal offerings. And they continued to adhere to the ceremonial law, which included the Levitical priesthood, a Levitical kehunah, and they continued to adhere to adult circumcision. So here we're talking about an instruction, a Turah. The instruction, the ceremonial instruction that deals with the Levitical priesthood, animal offering, and adult circumcision, which, by the way, has not been done away with because Yah's Turah is eternal. It has instead moved to the Shamayim, to the Hekel, or what you call temple, and the Shamayim, where now our Kohen Gadol, Yahushua HaMashiach, presides over the Hekel and atones for us, not by the blood of bulls, goats, and sheep, but by his very own blood. But by his very own blood. And so the Levitical Kihunah, or Luim Kihunah priesthood, has now been moved to the Shamayim, animal offerings, which pointed toward the Hamashiach anyway, has been moved to the Shamayim because a perfect offering has been made once and for all time. And so that's no longer required. And adult circumcision is no longer required because when the Ruach HaKodesh comes upon us, he circumcises our hearts and not the foreskin of our flesh. Verse 2 reads, "For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Elohim, but not according to da'af, to the knowledge that I just spoke, or that the Ruach HaKodesh just spoke through you." They did not have that knowledge. They still adhered to the ceremonial instruction, Torah, or law. For they being ignorant of Elohim's righteousness, and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of Elohim. For they being ignorant of Elohim's righteousness. What is Elohim's righteousness? Again, what is righteousness? What is the righteousness that is being discussed here? And again, how can a person be made right after committing a wrong? How can a person be determined righteous or zedek after committing an unrighteous act? And it has not changed. It is by the shedding of blood. And so the righteousness, how a person is determined righteous by Elohim, is not by the blood of bulls and goats, but by the shed blood of Hamashiach. By the shed blood of Hamashiach. This is the righteousness of Elohim, of being determined right by Elohim after committing a wrong or an unrighteous act. This is what is being discussed. And the being determined righteous, again, reading on, is not by our own hands. We cannot do it. By slaughtering a bull, a sheep, or a goat, and cutting that thing up and washing it, and presenting the cut up parts to the Kohanim and giving him the blood to be sprinkled, could only cover sins. It could not take away sin. It could not take away sin. And so a person was not truly considered righteous in the eyes of Elohim by doing this act. And this is what Shaul is discussing here with respect to establishing their own righteousness or being made right after committing a wrong in the eyes of Elohim. That's not enough. That's not enough. Reading on, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of Elohim. The righteousness of Elohim is Yahushua HaMashiach, his offering, and not the offering of bulls, goats, and sheep. His offering. This is how we are made right. This is how we are restored. This is how we are determined to be right or righteous after committing a wrong or unrighteous act in the eyes of Elohim by belief, what you call faith, who is a Greek goddess, by belief in the offering of the body of Hamashiach. This is the instruction that's being discussed. Not all of Yah's instructions are being discussed. This one and this one alone. Verse 4. For Mashiach, whom you call Christ, is the end of the law. Again, we've discussed that law is wrong. For righteousness to everyone that believeth. Yahushua is the end of the ceremonial law. He is the end of animal sacrifice. He is the end of the Levitical priesthood, a Levim priesthood, which presided over animal sacrifice and presided over the earthly heckle. He is the end of adult circumcision, which, if a man was not circumcised, he could not enter into the assembly of Yasharal. He is the end of all of that because he is the perfect offering that ends those offerings, those incomplete, those animal offerings that could not take away sin, and that pointed towards, that were a foreshadowing of his perfect offering, which by belief in, we are made right after committing a wrong. We are made right after committing a wrong. Moreover, he is now our Kohen Gadol in the order of Melchizedek. And so the priesthood of Kehunah has been moved to the Shamayim. There is no more circumcision because once the Ruach HaKodesh comes upon us, he circumcises our hearts. So again, is Shaul discussing a Torah, an instruction, or is he discussing a Turoth, all of Yah's instructions? As the Ruach has spoken, he is only discussing an instruction, the ceremonial instruction that deals with animal offerings, that deals with the Levim Kehunah, Levitical priesthood, and that deals with adult circumcision. If, in fact, what you call law, the entire law has been done away with, then in accordance with Uikra, Leviticus, the 18th chapter, I'm going to read it in its entirety, you are free to continue doing these things. If, in fact, the entire Turoth has been done away with. Again, get that false word law out of your mind. It is deceptive and it is wrong. It is wrong. Yah's Turoth will never be abolished, and it will remain until heaven and earth are done away with, have passed away. It is eternal. It is eternal. Listen, I'm going to read Uikra, the 18th chapter. I'm going to read through a few verses. Listen very carefully. Verse 1. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the Banim, the children of Yasharal, and say to them, I am Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not do as they do in the land of Mizraim, where you dwelt. And do not do as they do in the land of Canaan, where I am bringing you. And do not walk in their laws. Do my right rulings and guard my laws to walk in them. I am Yahuwah your Elohim. And you shall guard my laws and my right rulings, which a man does and lives by them. I am Yahuwah. No one is to approach anyone in his own flesh to uncover his nakedness. I am Yahuwah. So if Turoth is done away with, you can still do these things. And if you do, you're wicked and you're nasty. The nakedness of your father or the nakedness of your mother, you do not uncover. She is your mother. You do not uncover her nakedness. So if Turah is done away with, you can sleep with your father and you can sleep with your mother, and you're nasty and you're wicked. If you believe that. The nakedness of your father's wife, you do not uncover. It is your father's nakedness. You can sleep with your father's wife if Turah is done away with. And if you believe that, you're nasty and you're wicked. The nakedness of your sister, the daughter of your father or the daughter of your mother, whether born at home or elsewhere, the nakedness you do not uncover. If Turah is done away with, then you can sleep with your sister. And if you believe that, you're nasty and you're wicked. The nakedness of your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, their nakedness you do not uncover, for theirs is your own nakedness. If Turah is done away with, then you can sleep with your granddaughter or your grandson. And if you believe that, you're nasty and you're wicked. The nakedness of your father's wife's daughter, brought forth by your father, she is your sister. You do not uncover her nakedness. Again, if Turah is done away with, you can sleep with your sister. The nakedness of your father's sister, you do not uncover. She is your father's flesh. If Turah is done away with, you can sleep with your aunt. And if you believe that, you're nasty and you're wicked. The nakedness of your father's brother, you do not uncover. Do not approach his wife. She is your aunt. If Turah is done away with, you can sleep with your uncle or your uncle's wife, your aunt. And if you believe that, then you're nasty and you are wicked. The nakedness of your daughter-in-law, you do not uncover. She is your son's wife. You do not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of your brother's wife, you do not uncover. It is your brother's nakedness. If Turah is done away with, you can still do these things and you are nasty and wicked. The nakedness of a woman and her daughter, you do not uncover, nor do you take her son's daughter to her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness. They are relatives. It is wickedness. Some of you, YAHUAH'S, consider this a badge of honor to sleep with a mother and a daughter, and you're nasty and you're wicked. If Turah is done away with and you believe this, then you're nasty and you're wicked. And do not take a woman as rival to her sister to uncover her nakedness while the other is alive. Some of you, YAHUAH'S, will sleep with two sisters, and you take it as a badge of honor, and you're nasty and you're wicked. And do not give of your offspring to pass through to Molech, and do not profane the name of your Elohim. I am YAHUAH. If Turah is done away with, then you can still offer or sacrifice your children to the demon god Molech, which many of you do when you abort your children.